Welcome to my channel Starwire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. You're scrolling through your Instagram feed on a quiet Tuesday evening when suddenly your entire world shifts. That's exactly what happened to Modern Family's beloved Jesse Tyler Ferguson just 3 weeks ago when he stumbled upon a post that would send shockwaves through Hollywood's tightly knit community. The post? A simple black and white photograph with a caption that read, "Sometimes the greatest courage is knowing when to walk away." The woman behind that cryptic message? None other than Frances Anderson, the powerhouse talent agent who had been quietly shaping careers behind the scenes for over 2 decades. But here's where the story gets absolutely mind-blowing. Frances wasn't just any agent. She was the woman who discovered Jesse Tyler Ferguson at a tiny off-Broadway theater in 2003. Launching him toward his Emmy-nominated role as Mitchell Pritchett that would define a generation of television comedy. What Jesse read next would leave him staring at his phone for 27 minutes straight, according to sources close to the actor. Frances Anderson, the woman who had negotiated million-dollar deals, who had sat in boardrooms with studio executives, who had been featured on The Hollywood Reporter's Most Powerful Women list 3 years running, was walking away from it all. Not retiring. Not taking a sabbatical, walking away to become a kindergarten teacher in rural Montana. Now, I know what you're thinking. People change careers all the time, right? But this isn't just anyone we're talking about. This is Frances Anderson, whose client roster reads like a who's who of Hollywood's A-list. We're talking about the woman who turned unknown actors into household names, who could make or break careers with a single phone call. The same Frances Anderson who, just 6 months earlier, had closed a deal that made entertainment industry headlines for weeks. But before we dive into Jesse's emotional reaction, and trust me, what he told his closest friends will absolutely break your heart, let's rewind to understand exactly who Frances Anderson is and why her decision sent ripples through every corner of Hollywood. Frances Anderson wasn't born into the entertainment industry. Growing up in small-town Iowa, she was the daughter of 2 high school teachers who believed education could change the world. Her childhood was filled with school plays, community theater, and a deep appreciation for storytelling that would later become her superpower in Hollywood. When she moved to Los Angeles in 1999 with nothing but a communications degree and $800 in her bank account, nobody could have predicted she'd become one of the most influential people in entertainment. Her first job? Answering phones at a boutique talent agency in West Hollywood. But Frances had something that couldn't be taught, an almost supernatural ability to spot raw talent before anyone else could see it. While other agents were chasing established stars, Frances was haunting small theaters, comedy clubs, and even open mic nights, looking for that spark, that indefinable quality that separates good performers from great ones. And then came that fateful night in 2003. The theater was so small it didn't even have a proper name. Locals just called it the space above Murphy's Deli. Jesse Tyler Ferguson was performing in a one-man show he'd written himself, pouring his heart out to an audience of maybe 30 people. Most industry professionals wouldn't have been caught dead in that cramped, poorly ventilated room. But Frances? She was sitting in the 3rd row, taking notes. What happened next is Hollywood legend. After the show, Frances didn't approach Jesse with a typical agent pitch. Instead, she asked him about his character's motivation in the second act, about the personal experiences that informed his writing. They talked for 3 hours in that empty theater, and by the end of the night, Frances knew she wasn't just looking at a talented actor. She was looking at someone who could change television comedy forever. The partnership that followed was nothing short of magical. Frances didn't just negotiate Jesse's contracts. She helped shape his career trajectory with the precision of a chess grandmaster. When the opportunity for Modern Family came along, it was Frances who recognized that Mitchell Pritchett wasn't just another supporting character. It was a role that could define LGBTQ+ representation on television for years to come. Under Frances's guidance, Jesse transformed from an unknown theater actor into one of the most beloved figures on television. 5 Emmy nominations, countless award show appearances, and a character that became a cultural touchstone for families across America. But more than that, Frances helped Jesse navigate the complexities of being an openly gay actor in Hollywood, providing not just professional guidance, but genuine friendship and support. Which makes what happened 3 weeks ago so much more devastating for Jesse. Because this wasn't just his agent making a career change. This was the woman who had been his mentor, his advocate, and his friend for over 20 years, walking away from everything they built together. When Jesse first saw Frances's Instagram post, his immediate reaction was confusion. The caption was so unlike her usual professional tone. Frances had always been direct, business-focused, the kind of person who can negotiate a complex deal over breakfast and still make it to her next meeting 5 minutes early. This cryptic, almost philosophical message felt like it was coming from a completely different person. So Jesse did what any concerned friend would do. He called her. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Frances's phone went straight to voicemail. Not unusual in itself. She was always in meetings, always fielding calls from studios and production companies. But when Jesse called her assistant, he learned something that made his blood run cold. Frances had cleared her entire calendar for the week. No meetings, no calls, no appointments. In 20 years of working together, Jesse had never known Frances to take more than a long weekend off. It took 3 days of persistent calling before Frances finally answered her phone. And when she did, Jesse barely recognized her voice. Gone was the confident, energetic tone he'd grown accustomed to over 2 decades. In its place was something softer, more contemplative, almost peaceful. But it was the kind of peace that comes with finality, with having made a decision that changes everything. "Jesse," she said, and sources close to the actor tell us he could hear tears in her voice. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without trying to talk me out of it." What Frances told him next would stay with Jesse for weeks. She explained that 6 months earlier, while visiting her sister in Montana, she had volunteered to read to children at the local elementary school. It was supposed to be a one-time thing, a way to pass an afternoon while her sister was at work. But something happened in that classroom that Frances couldn't shake. She described watching those 5- and 6-year-olds listening to her read Where the Wild Things Are, their eyes wide with wonder, their imaginations completely captured by the story. For the first time in years, Frances felt like she was doing something that mattered in a way that went beyond contracts and negotiations and box office numbers. "I've spent 20 years helping people pretend to be other people," she told Jesse, "but I've never helped anyone discover who they really are." The silence on the other end of the phone stretched for nearly a minute. Jesse later told friends that he couldn't find words because he was trying to process not just what Frances was saying, but how she was saying it. This wasn't a moment of crisis or burnout. This was a woman who had found something that called to her soul in a way that her successful career never had. But Jesse's response wasn't what you might expect from someone whose longtime agent and friend was essentially abandoning their shared history. Instead of anger or attempts at persuasion, he asked her a single question: "Are you happy?" Frances's answer came without hesitation. For the first time in 20 years, yes. What followed was a 3-hour conversation that Jesse would later describe as one of the most profound of his life. Frances shared details about her decision that she hadn't told anyone else. The teaching certification program she'd been secretly completing online for 8 months. The small apartment she'd already put a deposit on in Missoula. The kindergarten class she'd be taking over in the fall from a retiring teacher who had become something of a mentor to her. But perhaps most importantly, Frances shared her fears. The terror of walking away from a career that had defined her for decades. The worry that she was making the biggest mistake of her life. The guilt over leaving clients who depended on her, especially Jesse, whom she'd watched grow from an unknown actor into a television icon. Jesse's response to her fears was something that Frances said she'd never forget. "You gave me the courage to become who I was meant to be. Now it's your turn." In the weeks that followed that phone call, something beautiful began to unfold. Instead of trying to change Frances's mind, Jesse became one of her biggest supporters. He helped her craft the perfect resignation letter to her agency. He connected her with other friends who had made dramatic career changes. He even helped her pack her apartment when the time came to make the move to Montana. But Jesse's support went beyond practical help. In interviews over the past few weeks, he's spoken openly about how Francis's decision has made him reflect on his own life and career. At 58, with Modern Family behind him and new projects on the horizon, Jesse admits that watching Francis pursue her authentic calling has inspired him to think more deeply about what truly matters to him. There's something else that makes this story even more remarkable. Francis didn't just walk away from her high-powered career quietly. In her final weeks as an agent, she made sure every single one of her clients was personally transitioned to agents she trusted completely. She spent hours with each of them, explaining not just the business details, but sharing insights about their careers that only she possessed after years of working together. And here's a detail that will absolutely melt your heart. For Jesse, Francis did something unprecedented. She wrote him a 20-page letter, handwritten, not typed, detailing every moment of their partnership that had meant something special to her. From that first conversation in the theater above Murphy's Deli to their last lunch meeting in Beverly Hills, Francis captured it all. Jesse has said that letter is now one of his most treasured possessions, not because it's a memento of his success, but because it's a testament to a friendship that transcended the typical agent-client relationship. It's a reminder that sometimes the most important relationships in our lives are the ones that help us become who we're meant to be. But the story doesn't end with Francis's departure from Montana. 3 weeks into her new life as a kindergarten teacher, she sent Jesse a photo that would make him tear up right there in his kitchen. It was her classroom, decorated with colorful posters and tiny chairs. But in the corner was a small bookshelf filled with children's books about creativity, imagination, and following your dreams. Attached to the photo was a message. They're never too young to learn that they can become anything they want to be. Thank you for teaching me the same thing. Jesse's public reaction to Francis's career change has been nothing short of inspiring. Rather than focusing on the loss of his longtime agent and friend, he's chosen to celebrate her courage. In recent interviews, he's spoken passionately about how Francis's decision represents something beautiful about the human spirit, the ability to reinvent ourselves at any stage of life, to choose authenticity over security, to follow our hearts even when it means leaving everything familiar behind. But perhaps the most touching aspect of Jesse's reaction is how he's incorporated Francis's story into his own advocacy work. As someone who has long been a voice for LGBTQ+ rights and representation, Jesse has begun speaking about career authenticity with the same passion he brings to his other causes. He argues that Francis's story isn't just about changing jobs. It's about the fundamental human right to pursue what makes us feel alive and purposeful. There's also been speculation in Hollywood circles about how Francis's departure might affect Jesse's own career trajectory. Some industry insiders suggest that losing such a powerful advocate could impact his ability to secure major roles. But Jesse's response to these concerns reveals something beautiful about the depth of his character. If Francis taught me anything, it's that success isn't about the size of your trailer or the number on your paycheck. It's about doing work that matters to you and to the world. In fact, sources close to Jesse suggest that Francis's decision has inspired him to be more selective about the projects he takes on, focusing on roles and opportunities that align with his values rather than simply advancing his career. It's a luxury that his Modern Family success has afforded him, but it's also a choice that reflects the influence of Francis's example. And here's something that might surprise you. Francis and Jesse talk almost every week. Not about business. Francis made it clear that chapter of her life is closed, but about life, about dreams, about the small moments that make up a meaningful existence. Francis shares stories about her students, their curiosity and creativity, their unfiltered joy in discovering new things. Jesse talks about his own projects, but also about how her courage has inspired him to take creative risks he might not have considered before. Their friendship has evolved into something even deeper than it was before. Without the professional obligations and industry pressures, they've discovered a connection based purely on mutual respect and genuine affection. It's the kind of friendship that reminds us that the most important relationships in our lives are often the ones that encourage us to grow, even when that growth takes us in unexpected directions. As we look at this extraordinary story, it's impossible not to be moved by both Frances's courage and Jesse's grace in responding to her decision. In an industry known for its ruthlessness and superficiality, their relationship represents something rare and beautiful. A professional partnership that became a genuine friendship, and a friendship strong enough to survive a complete life transformation. Frances Anderson may have left Hollywood behind, but her impact on the industry and on the lives of people like Jesse Tyler Ferguson will last forever. She proved that success isn't just about reaching the top of your profession. It's about having the courage to redefine success on your own terms, even when everyone around you thinks you're crazy. And Jesse Tyler Ferguson's reaction to his mentor's shocking career change? It shows us something equally powerful about friendship, support, and the ability to celebrate someone else's joy even when it means personal loss. In a world that often seems cynical and self-serving, Jesse's unwavering support for Frances's decision reminds us that true friendship means wanting what's best for the people we love, even when it's not what's best for us. Frances Anderson is now 3 weeks into her new life in Montana, teaching 23 kindergartners about colors and numbers and the magic of reading. Jesse Tyler Ferguson continues his successful career in Hollywood, but with a deeper appreciation for authenticity and courage. And somewhere between a small classroom in Montana and the bright lights of Los Angeles, their friendship continues to prove that the most important relationships in our lives are the ones that help us become who we're truly meant to be. This story reminds us that it's never too late to change course, never too late to choose authenticity over expectation, never too late to follow our hearts towards something that truly matters. And sometimes, the greatest gift we can give someone we love is the freedom to become who they're meant to be, even when it means letting them go. What do you think about Frances Anderson's incredible journey from Hollywood powerhouse to kindergarten teacher? Have you ever had someone in your life who inspired you to take a leap of faith? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you the way it moved me, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories about the real people behind Hollywood's biggest names. Until next time, keep chasing your authentic dreams. You never know where they might lead you.